Oh, sorry, I can't read your handwriting, Peter. One of the greatest things in the entire universe. Humanitarian, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, Grammys, blah-de-blah-de-blah, Shag, marry, unfaithful, I don't think so. Will you welcome, please, tonight,
Peter Asher. Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher.
Peter.
Peter Asher.
Thank you so much. Thank you, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I think I spoke to most of you already yesterday when I arrived. I just want to say it's very exciting to be back at the fest after a few years of not being able to come, like some years none of us could come. But it's really a pleasure, and it was great getting to chat with some of you today. It's always a pleasure. I meet lots of people here with whom I not only have common interests and common favorite music, but often common experiences and so on. So people like Patty, who I hardly see, even though we've been friends forever, we were just chatting backstage and trying to figure out where we can have dinner and so on. But anyway, let me explain to you kind of what's happening. We've been doing a show lately that's kind of the same memoir show you might have seen years ago, but we changed quite a lot of stuff. We found some new bits of video and new bits of story to tell. We also went kind of acoustic. We've done the songs kind of in more like a demo style. I made it the way they were when they were written. I talk a lot about great songwriters and stuff, and this is what so much of my show is about. So you'll find there's no hammering drums, no screaming electric guitars on this particular occasion, much though I love both those things. This is pretty much an acoustic show. We're going to do it in two halves. Half today, half tomorrow. They'll each be about an hour long and so on. But there's something else I would like to try, if it's okay with you. Because with my radio show, which some of you have been gracious enough to tell me you listen to, which I much appreciate. Thank you. With the radio show, we started doing shows based upon your emails. The listeners would send in emails with questions or comments and stuff, and they'd be really interesting. And they'd often lead me in a direction that led to the creation of a whole show that particular week. So we're going to try some of the same thing. At one point we were talking about making tomorrow half a Q&A and stuff like that. But I think what we're going to do is make everything a Q&A. So there's going to be a microphone up here in the front. So actually, in between songs or in between me burbling on about different topics or whatever, you're welcome to come up, stand at the mic, we will see that you're there. If I don't see, Jeff is going to be sitting over there, we'll see. And we will ask you if you have a question or if you have a comment. So during the whole show, today and tomorrow, comments are welcome, questions are welcome, and maybe we'll come up with some new ideas or new ideas for a radio show. Whatever's on your mind, we'd love to hear it. This show is, of course, about the 60s, and it's about the joy that was the 60s. And people often ask me why I think it's different from the decades that preceded it, and also why it was different in Britain than it was in America. And it's my opinion that in order to understand the 60s, we actually have to look not specifically only at the 60s, but we have to go backwards and look at the 50s. Because the 50s in Britain was so completely different from the 50s in America. Because Britain was a totally depressed economy. It was a post-war, disastrous economy. There were bomb sites everywhere. It was a very black and white, gloomy environment and so on. And we were suffering greatly, even though we'd officially won the war. It had left England in a seriously distressed state. Both physically distressed and emotionally distressed as well. And I think the 60s represents really our effort to cheer ourselves up after the gloom and doom of post-war Britain. And the task of cheering Britain up fell to a few people in particular. I think a great deal of the task, of course, fell to the Beatles. Their music was one of the things that cheered us up and one of the things that changed the world from the 50s to the 60s. The way they dressed, quite apart from the music they made, the genius music, the clothes, the art that was being created around them and all that stuff, they changed it a lot. And another person, there was a young woman, I think was equally responsible for the job of cheering Britain up, who came to the throne of Great Britain in 1953. And that, of course, is Queen Elizabeth II. We miss her very dearly, but it's funny to think that she was, of course, part of that same transition in a way. You know, we were all great admirers of the Queen and what she accomplished, and she did cheer Britain up to a considerable extent. So who could have ever imagined that 70 years after her coronation, she would actually summon me to Buckingham Palace by sort of royal command for an appointment with her grandson.
Mr. Peter Ashern for services to the British music industry.
So this is me, that's me getting what they call a CBE. You'll remember that that's Commander of the British Empire. And of course, Paul has gone on to achieve, as they all have, awards way beyond that. You know, he's now a knight and companion of honor, all kinds of incredibly distinguished awards, which he so well deserves. You may know that the protocol is that when you have a conversation with a member of the royal family, you're actually not allowed to report on its contents. So as you can probably tell in that brief exchange, he was actually giving me all kinds of incredibly hot gossip about Harry and Meghan and all that stuff. But tragically, the rules forbid me for relaying it all to you. And at the end of it all, you do get this very nice piece of bling, which is safely at home. So it's